It's Creative Week for World Photo Adventures and Australian photography. We're here with a group of photographers to explore Cradle Mountain. It's a beautiful location, stunning landscapes, great nature.
It's a really good week because we get to do, we're shooting landscapes and wildlife. We're also shooting mushrooms and foliage and rainforest, which is great.
We're going to take some special photographs this week, and hopefully the group will learn some new techniques that'll take them beyond their current boundaries.
We've got a range of photographers of all experience level, and they've all got the same goal, which is to get a great photo.
I'm really confident that there's some spectacular images to come out of this group. Let's see what happens. Cradle Mountains is a beautiful landscape location, but it offers excellent tracks as well. And I've split our group up into two, exploring two different short tracks, looking at mushrooms, waterfalls, and the beautiful forest scenery here. I can't recommend that highly enough, that okay, you come to target the famous mountains, but other opportunities are about as well.
Because it's so wet, there's lots of mushrooms and they change every day. We've seen yellow mushrooms, red mushrooms, black mushrooms. And it's a really good place to practice macro photography, and they just look sensational. It's like a small, little fairy forest, but it's just magical. It's beautiful.
With macro photography, it's a different discipline. And in regards to your visualization of a final result, you really need to get down at low levels, and you need to think small quite often. So I use a macro lens ideally, but if I don't have a macro lens, I might use an extension tube. My other tool is a LED torch. They give you really powerful light, and I can set my aperture to something like f8, f11. I can use 800 or 400 ISO, and I can actually handhold the results. Now that can make a big difference in regards to a little tiny mushroom and the ability for you to access that mushroom. One of the key difficulties to macro photography is depth of field. So if I'm photographing on a mushroom, I'm going to try and focus on the front part of the mushroom. Quite often it'll try and focus on the stem of the mushroom, but I want that nice gill section at the front also nice and sharp. So I'm going to use f11, maybe f16, and it's one of the few times I'll also use f22, in particular if I'm using flash. But sometimes you want controlled depth of field, and I often find around f8, f11 is really nice to drop the background out. So up your ISO to about 800 ISO, have a look at the results carefully in screen, double check your result. You might need to shoot 3-4 times. Give it a go, I think you'll love it. Part of the reason I chose Tasmania as a location for Creative Week was for its amazing wildlife. I love this place. It's got wombats, paddy melons, all sorts of animals.
In the last couple of days, we've seen Tassie devils, snakes, platypus, and little wallabies, which is, just great shooting opportunities for everyone.
We just finished photographing a paddy melon. Paddy melons are a small macropod, small kangaroo, and he's actually eating a mushroom. So it was really unusual to see it eating this quite large mushroom right in front of us. Didn't care about us, it's used to people, and that's the great thing about these sort of walks. And it allowed us to get very unique photographs. We're in the Enchanted Forest, and it is enchanting. It's a beautiful place. Walking along the path, looking for things to photograph, and predominantly we've got our GP, our general purpose lenses on, our macro lenses and wide angle lenses, and all of a sudden, really close to us, literally 5 meters away, platypus. Out comes the big telephoto lens. Normally I wouldn't suggest to do this, but we were shooting 6400 ISO, aperture priority, aperture wide open. And the reason for this 6400 ISO is the light is so low in the forest here. So I would rather get a photograph with a bit of noise or grain in the photograph than miss out on a fantastic subject. So I used my camera to do that. I also pulled out my smartphone, and I got some video. Have a look at the video. In this situation, the still images, little noisy, maybe not publishable, but hopefully they are. But the video, I've got a cool memory there well into the future.
Some of the group had seen the platypus the day before, and I unfortunately missed it. And a couple of the other group missed it. And we went back the next day, and we were just so lucky to catch it. We were just about to get in the car, And we saw some other people just looking in the water, and this little platypus was just sort of browsing around in the water and doing its thing, which is great, you know, really good photo opportunity.
I've seen many platypus over the years, but this particular one didn't care about us at all. He would come up to us, feeding, duck diving, doing the normal platypusy things, whatever they do. And what this platypus allowed us to do was to go in front of him and wait for him to come to us. So we'd sit there for only literally a few seconds, and we get these beautiful bow waves of this platypus coming towards us. We're using longer telephoto lens. My son Fraser was only using a 70 to 200mm lens, and this gave us a great scope to get different images.
It came right up to us. I've never seen that in a platypus before. I had my 70 to 200, getting as low as I could to get good angles with the platypus. And yeah, we were just following him up the lake, and he seemed very acclimatised to us, which let us get closer.
What we found in the end, that this platypus would come right up to us, and again, I've never experienced this before. We're not going to the platypus, he's coming to us. We sat there, and in the end, it actually came so close that we couldn't get photographs. It was too close. Really cool experience.
Settings-wise, I was shooting wide open because it was quite overcast and dark. Auto ISO, so my ISO was just going up to 1600 or so, getting 500th of a second. And because he's moving nice and slow, you get great results.
Because we went back a second time, it enabled us to get some different photographs, but also probably better photographs, because we used our experience from the first time. And what fantastic results. Another beautiful morning at Dove Lake. We come here quite often, several times during a week, because every situation's going to be different. It rains a fair bit here, the weather's quite variable. By coming more than once, we increase our chances of getting images that are just beyond snapshots. So in this case today, we've got a scene that is going to suit black and white imagery. We've got quite a bit of cloud cover, but there's some cool clouds involved. Not a lot of wind, great reflections. Let's go and have some fun.
Yeah, so we were up before first light. We're at the boat shed and just trying to get some sunrise shots. The sunrise though isn't cooperating, we've got lots of cloud, but things are changing quickly and we're just hoping for some nice light and for the clouds to just sort of clear their way off Cradle Mountain. It's just sort of like this classic sort of photograph which most people would have seen before, and it's about trying to find it, you know, like different ways to capture it, but it's just a very sort of pretty scene. The boat shed on the lake, the water's really still, beautiful vegetation around here and great photo opportunities. We're shooting with a whole range of photographers from beginners to sort of really high level photographers, including two of our photographers of the year, which is really exciting.
I won a competition with Australian Photography magazine, and I was named Australian Photographer of the Year 2021. And one of the prizes was this amazing trip to sunny, not so sunny, cloudy Tasmania.
I had lots of fabric at home in lockdown, so we hung the fabric as a backdrop, and my daughter was my model, and I painted her face to blend in with the backdrop, and then photographed that. And it was a pretty time-consuming process, and it wasn't done for the competition. It was just something I started and then saw that the competition was closing soon, so got a couple more in and entered it into the competition.
It's called the Rocket Girl Chronicles, and this is a series of shots of my daughter, which I guess as every proud father, you try to document her growing up. And this one was started in the lockdown, which was in Melbourne, notoriously long lockdown, so we looked for something to do and just go out on a few adventures, and I kept my camera on me and just took those family memories, and they just happened to be an award-winning material, which is very humbling, and it's a good thing.
It's been a really great experience. The weather hasn't been amazing, but we've made the most of it. We've still done a few of the rainforest walks, lots of mushrooms to take photos of, and I've learnt a few little tips and tricks to get some better mushroom shots. Persevered with the weather and managed to just see Cradle Mountain, so I was really happy to get that shot. Even when the weather's bad, you can still get some great shots.
Being submerged into a new environment and having to go with the flow, it definitely provides you with new experiences and stretches your skill, so it's a great learning experience for me. It's an old Crown Graphic. I think this edition is from the 1950s. It's the smallest of the large format cameras. It's 4x5 inch frame, and they used to be actually press cameras back in the day, so like for the journalists, for the newspapers, before smaller formats came around. For something like landscape, if you do have a bit of time to spend, it's quite a rewarding experience because you get to experience completely different side of photography, very slow, very considerate. On the downside, it's not something that you can just fling out and get a shot. You really have to set it up, measure everything, think about everything, adjust everything, and then one shot, and that's all you got, and you get 2 shots per film holder. But it does give you a completely different feel and look, and just different side of photography that I enjoy as well.
Often I love to go to places like zoos, sanctuaries, those sort of places where you can put back into helping animals that are in trouble. So we're at Devils at Cradle, and it's a great place to see devils, spotted quolls, eastern quolls, and animals that are nocturnal and really, really difficult to find. I was actually lucky many years ago to photograph Kia, and she's been used for many years as the emblem of the park. I know Tourism Tasmania used her as well, and for me, I couldn't get this type of photograph in the wild. I'm not a zoo photographer professionally, but I do love to come and explore these places. I bring my groups here. We listen to the information. There's fantastic information in regards to the problems of the animal. We know that the devils, for example, have gone through a terrible cancer that's been going through their population. And it was really interesting to get that information and find out and get more than just photo, but a bit of background and information to save the animals as well.
They're incredibly hard to shoot, but in that environment you've got a few more opportunities because they're obviously enclosed, but it's a really good way to, I suppose, test your wildlife skills and get better at sort of grabbing that focus as they're moving quickly, you know, from point to point.
If you come to a sanctuary or a zoo, there's a couple of complexities to that type of photography. Often there's cage, wire, glass involved. I like to find open spaces as much as possible and aim to get the animal in as natural environment as possible, and I'll use a longer telephoto lens. So in this case, I've got a 200 to 600 millimeter lens. 100 to 400 is probably better suited, a little bit smaller, and will do a great job. I use aperture priority, and I'll use 5.6 or something like that as my aperture. And ISO might be on automatic, but I usually like to set it myself, and I'll default to 400 to start. But on a day like today, there's a little mist of rain occurring, a bit of overcast weather, I'm shooting 3200 ISO. So again, I'm not going to be scared to up that ISO to get a great result. Another lens you might like to try is the 70 to 200 2.8. So you can open your aperture up that 2 stops extra, and that will help with your shutter speed, and you don't need to have that ISO at 3200. You could be 1600 or 800 ISO for the same type of result. A couple of tips I can offer in regards to shooting in a zoo. If you've got glass there, you're going to have reflections. So I actually put my rubberized hood up onto the glass, and that'll help take away the glare, and then I can start shooting. And you'll be surprised how much photography you can get shooting through glass without a problem. And it's the same for a cage. It's quite interesting how visually the cage is off-putting to you as a photographer, yet again, if I put my rubberized hood up against the cage and start to shoot, I can actually, because of the telephoto effect, my depth of field is shooting way beyond this, and it actually shoots through the cage. And occasionally it might show up, but quite often you'll find you'll get great results shooting through that manner as well.
So Australian photography is very much about improving the way you shoot, but also you edit your images and you share your images. Hopefully you print them or use them in a photo book. And Creative Week is very much about that too. It's shooting, but it's also getting back and editing your images and working out ways to kind of share them with other people, whether that's on social media or in a book or through a slideshow or whatever you want to do. But it's about sort of getting your photography up to that next level.
What a fantastic week. I'm really surprised at everyone's results. We had a tough week. The weather was not kind to us at all. We had a fair bit of rain. Yesterday it was gale force winds, but the imagery that's come out and the imagery that you're looking at right now, I think it's fantastic for photographers that have started. Some of them were absolute beginners, and within 4 or 5 days, they're taking really, really beautiful images that would look fantastic on anyone's wall. Creative Week has been a special event for me for many, many years. I love interacting with photographers, helping photographers, but also seeing how creative other photographers can be. With our partner, Australian Photography, we really have an event that I think each year just gets better and better, and I hope you can join us in future. It's Creative Week 2022, and we're here to explore a special my lips are getting cold there. You could be 16 or 800 ISO for the but because we went back twice, we got a double banger. So